Hello friends, welcome back. We have been learning a lot on the foundations and we have slightly moved into the path where we are understanding in-depth concepts which are slightly difficult as well. In the last session, I initiated the discussion with the corpus, the importance of the corpus and more things on the corpus. This session is all connected to building the corpus. This is a very important topic even from the interview perspective, exam perspective. This is a very important topic. Building the corpus. What is a corpus? A corpus is a collection. A corpus is a machine readable representation of the complete record of a particular domain or a topic. It's a representation of the complete record, which means collection of a particular topic or a domain. Experts in variety of fields use a corpus or a corpora for tasks such as linguistic analysis, to study writing styles, or even to determine authenticity of the particular work. I'm going to do a research on a particular topic. So for me to go ahead and understand more on it, I can go ahead and refer the corpus. If I want to determine the authenticity of the particular work, I can go and refer the corpus. If I want to analyze a particular linguistic analysis content, I can go ahead and check the corpus. If I want to go ahead and study more on the writing styles, I can check the corpus. So corpus is a collection. Corpus is a machine readable representation of complete record of a particular topic or a domain. For an instance, the complete works of William Shakespeare might be a corpus of interest to somebody who is working or studying the literature in the English, particularly 16th or 17th century. I specify here that the written works of William Shakespeare might be of an interest of a particular person who is doing research or who is studying the literature by Shakespeare and specific to English literature in the era of 16th and 17th century. So that can now be a corpus, that can now be a collection. Now, for a researcher studying theatrical productions of the same period, say in the 16th, 17th century, it might be necessary to use the Shakespeare corpus plus many other resources, many other bases, many other contents that can cover the works of his contemporaries. Such a collection of corpora can very quickly and easily become very difficult and cumbersome if they come from different sources. I repeat, I'm going to do a research on a particular topic, say English literature, which are mostly covered by William Shakespeare, and that spans in the 16th and 17th century. I collect all his materials, and in addition to it, I may have to refer several other sources as well, which cover the works of his contemporaries or the people who have worked at the same time. Now that collection is going to be definitely troublesome, definitely cumbersome to manage if they are coming from different resources, because they could be in the different formats, and if they are really larger in size, that's going to be really tough, and it becomes really cumbersome for the people to handle it if the information that is irrelevant is also being included there. So we need to be very conscious of what is to be included and what not to be included. For an example, someone working or researching on the theatrical productions might not be interested in other domains. Please understand, deciding what to leave is very, very important, as good as deciding what to keep, what to include. So that's what I told you before. You are collecting a lot of data. The data comes from different resources. What to include in the corpus and what to exclude from the corpus is itself an art. A corpus is a large structured collection of text or spoken language data. The collection of data could come from different resources. So deciding what to keep, what to leave is a very important thing. Remember, corpora is a term that we use as well. The corpora is nothing but plural of corpus. The corpora are essential for tasks which include the machine learning, the deep learning, linguistic modeling, linguistic research, and this is equally important. It's plural of corpus. Many people, many persons will use corpus and corpora interchangeably. Corpora is a plural. Just remember that, and corpora is very useful as well. So you can interconnect and understand the connection. In a cognitive computing application, the corpus or corpora represent the body of knowledge the system can use to answer the questions, to discover new patterns, to identify relationships, and to uncover new insights. Before the system is launched, however, the base corpus must be created, and that would be done by the designer. So he has the responsibility to go ahead and create the base corpus, and the base corpus is going to serve the purpose initially. What types of problems do you want to solve? If the corpus is too narrowly defined, you may miss out on new and unexpected insights. So please understand, your corpus cannot be too narrowly defined. You will miss out some of the very important insights, and that's a loss. So whenever you are going to design a corpus, you cannot make it too narrow. That's a very important aspect of learning. So please understand that point. Now, there is a summary of points with respect to corpus building have to be gone through, and I am going to do that right now. Which internal and external data sources are needed for the specific domain areas and problem to be solved? What are your sources for the data is the point I am trying to address. It can be internal, it can be external, but which internal, which external data are needed? Will the external data sources be ingested in the whole or in part? How are you going to ingest it? Are you going to push everything, or are you going to do it part by part? How can you optimize the organization of the data for efficient search and analysis? I have a large volume of data. It's a bulky data volume that I have. How do we optimize it? Because I need effective search and analysis. It's a large data. If I have to waste a lot of time in search, and if it is not efficient as well, it's a problem. So what do we need to do? We need to understand how do we optimize. We need to work out on methods, as in how do we get the optimization of the data organization done, which can lead us to effective search and analysis. How can you integrate data across multiple corpora? This is a major point. How do you integrate data across multiple corpora? How can you ensure that the corpus is expanded to fill the knowledge gaps in your base corpus? The base corpus, when you are building, might not have all the contents that it had to have. So it gets expanded, it gets grown, it gets learning automatically, and it gets grown. So how do you ensure that this is expanded and it gets all the necessary data filled to fill the gaps? And how can you determine which data sources need to be updated and at what frequency? I am getting data inputs, I am getting the data updations, but at what frequency do I have to update it? This is a real important point that we need to look into. Now, we need to understand the choice of which sources to include in the initial corpus is very, very critical. I have got the initial corpus being built right now. So that is the base. The base corpus should be very clearly built, and the choice of the sources to be included in the initial corpus is super critical. The sources could be from journals, from Wikipedia, from any other resources, and it could now be imported into the initial system for the launch of the cognitive system. In addition to that, you should also understand it is very important to ingest information from the videos, images, voice, and sensors. So data is not necessarily from the journals. Data is not necessarily from the web pages. Data is not necessarily the Wikipedia collection. It is also from the videos, images, voice, and sensors. Another very important consideration that you need to do is how much of the data to be imported initially. I have a large volume of data when I start the work, but for the base corpus, how much of them will make sense? It is very important to determine and to understand how to update or refresh the data periodically and how often. I am going to refresh, I am going to update, because corpus is never static. You cannot claim your corpus as a corpus if it remains static. It had to be updated, and definitely it gets learning, it gets quickly revised, it gets quickly refreshed. So how sooner or how longer can we wait to get the corpus refreshed? And during the design phase, you have to be extremely careful. During the design phase of the cognitive system, a key consideration is to be given, as in whether to construct a taxonomy or ontology if none exist for the particular domain. I defined what is a taxonomy and what is an ontology right in previous sessions. So you need to understand if you have a requirement to go ahead and construct a taxonomy or an ontology if there is none existing in the past. Having a structure like ontology or taxonomy could be helpful, and it could really make the process a little more efficient. So you need to decide if you are going to have that. This is a very important consideration. The choice of data structures can greatly impact the performance of the system, and you should really look into it. This is a point that we need to consider, and choosing the right data structure will help us in getting the best results in terms of generating and even scoring hypothesis. So remember that. That's a very important point. Right. What are all the things and considerations we need to pay with respect to corpus management, regulatory and security considerations? Whenever you are talking about data, there comes an immediate point. What are all the regulatory and security related considerations you need to pay? Corpus is no different. The data sources and movement of the data are increasingly becoming highly regulated. That's a good point to note, and we all should support that. Particularly if you are having personal data, that is very important to be careful, and we cannot play around with it. Some general issues of data policies for protection, security, and compliance are common to all applications. But when it comes to cognitive computing applications, you are learning, you are evolving, new data is coming in, the knowledge is coming in, and most importantly, all these are to be subjected to the federal, state, and international legislation. This is very, very important. Cognitive systems are no exceptions. When the initial corpus is developed, we are going to use tools like ETL tools, which is called extract, transform, load tools. And these tools will definitely have the risk management, the security and regulatory features to help the user guard against data misuse. So many ETL tools have come up with the guidelines that can help the users for the risk management, for the security management, and regulatory features are also provided to you as an end user. So sensitive data can be handled carefully if you are going with ETL tools. But these tools do not exclude the developers or free the developers from the responsibility to ensure that the data and metadata is in compliance with rules and regulations. Just because you are using tools, you cannot wash your hands right away and say that I am not responsible. You are responsible, you are the user, you are the developer, you need to be responsible for whatever data you have been using. So you cannot wash off your hands right away. The protected data may be ingested, which can be personal data, generated when the corpus is updated by the cognitive computing system. So it is all data. If it is protected personal data, if it is data which is of high importance, you need to be even more careful, and obeying and following all the regulations is good enough for you to proceed further. Planning for a good corpus management should include a plan to monitor relevant policies that impact the data in the corpus. This is the most important point that we all should consider and take it up right away in the beginning. You should have good plan not only for building the corpus but also for management of the data in the corpus. That's a very important point. I hope the session gave you clarity on the corpus building and the rules and regulations of the corpus building, the guidelines. All this stuff could have been interesting. If you have any questions, post it in the chat. I'd be very glad to take it up, and thank you very much.